You're tuned in to Just One Hot Mom with host Nanika Ansari. Get ready. She's about to bring you that fire, that flavor, that heat, all that passion, and more from around the world and in your neighborhood. Stay tuned.
Hey hotties, you are tuned into Just One Hot Mom, and I am your host, Nanika Ansari, and I don't know what the weather is really doing today, y'all. I can't even really explain to you if it's hot, if it's cold. It was nice this morning. Now it's kind of dying off like it's going to rain, but it's still a beautiful day in the neighborhood because you woke up this morning. So let me tell y'all, today in the studio, I brought somebody here to vindicate me. So all my friends who said I'm just a complete and total jerk. So you guys know, previously Carla Kennedy was on the show and we were talking about boundaries. And I said, you know, when I attended her event, there was this nice lady there who described boundaries for people. And I said, I'm going to have her on the show so she can describe boundaries to you. So I wanted you guys to welcome Stacey Hubbard. Hey, Stacey.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Good. So how's everything going today? Good. So you guys, we're going to make Stacey feel comfortable and we're just going to have a good time getting you squared away and making you feel comfortable with drawing boundaries with people in your life. So Stacey, can you give us a little bit of your background and how you started out talking about boundaries with people? Because that's not the original conversation, the boundaries.
No. With Carla Kennedy, it was initially mommy issues and dealing with mommy issues. And so we kind of, we talked about filling your cup, what's in your cup, and how your history and different interactions with different people have formulated your worldview, and how now you're carrying this stuff, whether it's low self-esteem, depression, anxiety, anger. And so the boundaries came in where we're dealing in relationships and we're coming with this stuff. And so I'm carrying this bowl around, this cup around, and in relationships, we tend to collide. We're going to collide in some kind of way, and whatever is in our cup is going to spill out. Mm-hmm. And so whatever is on me, I'm just going to project on you. It's going to hit you. Mm-hmm. Or we're open. We don't cover our cups. We don't protect our cups. So now whatever is on you is going to spill on me, and now I'm carrying what's on you in my cup.
And see, we don't even realize sometimes that we're carrying all of that stuff until an explosive moment happens. Absolutely. And then you can't deal with it. Then you're wondering why you're falling out with people, why you don't have any friends, why you're not invited to places. And it's all because I love the concept that you gave us at the event of giving us that cup. And I swear I thought this was for water. and then she told us to put down, you know, like our issues that we were having and to put them in the cup. And so it was just a matter of like, dang, did I have a lot of issues? Like, how heavy is my cup? And then when you have all of that and then you take on other people's issue, that cup gets heavier. I was like, at some point this cup is going to break and it's going to bust open. So that's what we're going to talk about today, people, is boundaries, and helping you, especially us as women, as maternal figures, whether you're a mom, an auntie, a sister, a godmother, a play mother, helping you draw those boundaries so that you can still live a healthy and successful and an empowered life and not be worried about if you tell somebody no, whether or not, you know, they don't want to be bothered with you anymore. But I wanted to ask you, why do you think it's difficult for women to draw boundaries?
Because we're constantly looking for someone to make us feel okay. And many times in relationships, we do everything that we can to be at peace or to make the relationship work. And so we become yes people. We want you to like us. We want you to feel comfortable with us, even if we're not comfortable with ourselves.
And see, I think that's so messed up, is that oftentimes we're not comfortable with ourselves, but we want you to feel comfortable, even in my own uncomfortableness. As long as you're cool, it doesn't matter if I'm cool. And so I didn't tell the audience the story yet, but Stacey knows the story. She set us up with a scenario that was like, hey, what if you've been studying all night and then you like finally get ready to go to bed, like you got a big test in the morning and you studied all night and now you're finally going to bed and you're exhausted, and then here comes your friend knocking on your door at 4 a.m. talking about they want to talk about something, and then she went around the room and was like, well, what would you do? And I was like, girl, I'd tell her to go away. And like everybody in the room was like, no, that's your friend. You're supposed to comfort them. And then Stacey, what was the result? Like, what are we supposed to do if we are tired or exhausted, or if we're doing things on our own and somebody comes and invades your space when you're already shutting down?
So the first thing is you have to recognize where you are in your capacity. And you need to understand what your goal of the interaction is. So when someone demands something, you have to know what your cutoff is. What is your limit? So before you can it's not just say no. It's where am I in the moment, and is it okay for me to say no? Do I have space to say no? And you just being what I call a friend to yourself.
And see, I think sometimes that people think that like setting boundaries with people is selfish. Like, oh, I could help so-and-so, but I was like, it's not. It's, to me, it's taking care of self. It's not selfish, because why would you be selfish with you?
Absolutely.
Why do we often think that that's being selfish? Like, well, she didn't help me out, so you know, that's just her being snotty or snooty about something. Why is it like that?
Because people have demands. And other people are selfish as well. And when we are helpers, if you have that helping energy, you are willing. You are more willing. So when you say no, it's just like, what? What did I do wrong? And we begin to internalize and think something's wrong with us, or they think you're being mean because you've set the boundary. People don't like boundaries.
And see, and I was like, but you even have to set boundaries. Like, it's not just with friends or, you know, family. You have to almost set them with your kids, too. And it's almost because you have to have your own inner peace. If you guys want to call in with questions, the number is 440-252-0518, 440-252-0518. Because I know for me personally, like, I used to have no boundaries. And I can honestly admit that, like, I would, if you asked me to do something, boom, I'm there, Johnny on the spot. Even if I was tired, even if I didn't really want to do it, I did it. And then I noticed that I did it with like a negative attitude. And so I'm just wondering, like, you told us there were three stages of boundaries. Can you kind of explain what those are?
So so what we talked about was porous boundaries, rigid boundaries, and healthy boundaries. So with the porous boundaries, when you think of a boundary, that we discussed it like a fence, something to protect it. So porous boundaries means there's no fence, there's nothing guarding. That means that anything can come in, anything can go out. I'm not protecting myself, nor am I protecting you. Rigid boundaries are those more nothing is getting in and nothing is getting out. So porous, everything's coming in and everything's going out. I'm throwing up on you, and then I'm taking whatever
your action is.
So what we described before in the meeting, we talked about someone coming to your house. You've got this white carpet, white couch, crystal, and someone just comes in, and you think they're a friendly person, you think they're nice, you're like, I want them in my house. So you just open the door, and you expect that they will just respect what you value. I value my white carpet, I value my couch, I value my crystals. So there's a certain way that you have to operate when you come in, but it's an unsaid expectation. It's an unstated expectation. And so they come in, and they come and plop down on your couch with mud all on their shoes and on their clothes. And now you're upset. You're upset because they didn't respect what you never told them to respect.
Oh, that's deep. Yeah, because you have to set an expectation.
You have to identify what's valuable to you. And then two, you have to be able to express that if you're going to come past this point, this is how you have to operate. If you don't want to, that's okay too. You're just going to have to stay on the other side of the door.
That's that boundary right there. Like, don't bring your dirty shoes on my white carpet.
Exactly.
But you'll be shocked how many people don't respect a boundary. It's like they just come in and they deliver all their stuff. Like, they want the weight of the burden of whatever they have going on off of them. So they'll just leave it with you, and they never consider your feelings or how what they're doing will affect you. And so you said that's like the Polaris. Porous. So porous. So that's when, we're exchanging. So I could come to your house with my dirty shoes on too and wipe off there. And then we're just going back and forth and nobody's really resolving anything. We're just shifting information. Okay. So, all right. Now rigid. How would we describe that one?
So rigid, when I think of rigid, I think of normally when I draw it out for people, it's like a person in a box that nothing can get in and nothing can get out. So that person is very isolated. Seemingly, it appears that they're very cold and harsh and disconnected and withdrawn. So they're not being impacted by anybody, and they're not making an impact. So with rigid boundaries, you just can't get to the person.
And so it's like their house is constantly protected like a guard dog.
You're not getting to the house.
You're not going to even get my address.
Right.
And if you see me in public, it's like, wave your hands. But why do you think people get to a point where they are so rigid? Like, these pain. Okay.
Yeah, most times there's pain, there's hurt, there's experiences where they've had that negative experience. So now they've created a scenario where you won't do it again. No one will do it again. But you're dying in the inside because, we are social people. And so, we need each other. But people that isolate themselves that rigidly just kind of die off.
And so that's got to be hard. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like you can't accept friends. You can't make friends if you're just that off. Do you often find that those people are introverts? I'm just curious.
It's not necessary, but yes.
Okay.
Sometimes you might have an extrovert, and that experience for them in that box is worse because they thrive off of being around other people. That's where they gain their energy. And now that I have trust issues, I'm going to seclude myself, but I am so unhappy. I'm depressed.
Wow, you know what? You never think about that because extroverts, you imagine that they always want to be out there in the open, showing themselves and doing all of that. But if you are creating this type of boundary in your life, you can't be out there. You can't be expressing yourself. You can't be letting people in. Okay, so what's the third one?
Healthy boundaries.
Okay.
So when we talk about healthy boundaries, that looks more like a fence where it's not too high and it has a door. It has a door on there, so there's a protection of you. If I have a dog inside the fence, it's going to protect you from being bit by the dog. And it's also protecting me. I don't know what you have out there, but I have a choice now to let you in. But before I let you in, there needs to be some discussion of what's expected behind. This is here for a reason. Why is it here? What am I protecting? So before I let you in, we have to talk about what it is that we need to protect, that I'm protecting, that you need to respect.
And see, and it's a give and take thing. It's not just I'm protecting me, but you are also allowed to protect you. And there's nothing wrong with having a healthy boundary and saying like, hey,
there's a pit bull back here. There's a way that you have to engage with the pit bull to not get bit.
So how do we go about I'm getting me a pit bull. They know I got a little dog. That little dog gets rowdy. How do we go about setting expectations though? Because I think sometimes that's where we lose the mark, is that we don't set expectations with people. We just assume that people are going to know what we want. How can you give us some key things on how we can set expectations with people?
So when you say expectations, or our expectations,
or teaching them to respect your space.
Okay, so you need to be able to, like I said, define what it is that you value and what they're about to interact with. So being very clear with, when you come behind this door, this is what needs to happen. This is so let's take another step. If I have depression and there are certain things that trigger me in relationships, I have to be very clear. If you are going to be my friend, this is something that I struggle with. No, it's not your responsibility. I'm not expecting for you to carry the weight, but here are my triggers. If I'm an alcoholic and I am in recovery, if I'm inviting you over, don't bring alcohol to my home. That's not welcome here.
And so it's just a matter of time. I think you have to be open and honest with people, but I think all too often we're afraid.
You got to be open and honest with yourself first. Ooh. Many times when we discuss boundaries and we get to like, what are the values? What do you value? People don't know what to write down.
so people don't know what they value about themselves. So that's a whole lot of self-discovery you have to go through. So before y'all set up these boundaries, do some self-discovery and figure out what it is you value about yourself and what you want others to value about you.
What do I need you to respect? 'Cause you don't have to value it. I just need you to respect it.
And so we lose a lot when we don't teach people how to respect us. We hear that all the time, like, show people how to respect you, show people. But most of us, if we don't know what we respect, you can't teach somebody else how to respect you. Girl, she getting deep on this, y'all. I'm like sitting there like, okay, now let me see. I need to set up another boundary. And so I think when we were in that discussion about, you know, somebody coming to you and wanting to drop off their stuff, it's a heavy burden to carry somebody else's stuff. And so what do you recommend to ladies who are saying, like, you know what, but I'm still trying to just be a good friend to this person?
So what does it mean to be a good friend? That's the thing you really have to unpack. Because sometimes we think being a good friend is doing all of this stuff. But sometimes being a good friend is the ability to say no, or being able to say that's not healthy, or at least it's not healthy for me.
And see, I think when you're a good friend, people will respect your space. Like, good friends respect each other's spaces. Even if you don't agree with what that person is doing in their space, you have enough respect for that friendship to say, okay, you know what, I respect how you're moving right now. And so, you know, maybe we can't do this together, but let's find something else to do. You know what I'm saying? Just a way to compromise and to work out the friendship. Well, all too often it's like, I know for me sometimes it's like a no and I'm done. And so I'm trying to work on it, y'all. Just pray for me. Bear with your girl. I'm really trying to work on it. But I think one thing that came up in the group, and I'll say is that as we as Christian women often feel the shame of when we're not helpful to people, it's like, but you're a Christian, so you should be helpful. And it's like carrying that burden of the Proverbs 31 woman, or, you know, just different women in the Bible who showed us, like, I can't even think of her name right now, like Ruth, and how she was there for her mother-in-law. Maybe your mother-in-law ain't the best and you don't know how to be there for her like that. Like, how do we get them to get past it and to be like, it's okay not to be this perfect woman?
The unfortunate part about it is we can never really take care of other people emotionally. Like, we can care for you, but we can't change what you feel. So there's sometimes that you just have to be clear on your end, and we call it scope of control. So the scope of control is I can only control what I can control, and I can only operate within my identified limits. And I'm okay if you're angry about that. I'm okay if you're disappointed with me, because I've done the best that I could. And so if you need me to do more and I can't, I'm sorry.
And see, I just think, and I was like, I'm not going to say nothing bad about the church, so don't y'all worry. But I just think sometimes we're not taught that some of those expectations, like, for me, I personally believe that the Proverbs 31 woman had some help. Like, she didn't just do all of that stuff by herself, but we're taught to believe that she did, and like, she just did it alone, and she never needed any help. And so you should be the type of woman that does all this stuff alone, and you
Where
never
are you
need
getting
any
that
help.
from, though? Like, who's putting that pressure on you?
See, I think it's other women. Like, why do we do that to each other, though? Why are we setting each other up for failure? Because I kind of think when you put that type of pressure on another person, you're ultimately setting them up for failure.
So I love the church. I absolutely do. But I think it's definitely a place where there's a lot of expectation, unrealistic expectations that people walk around with a lot of shame because they're not able to meet that level of perfection. And Christ never called us to be perfect. He called us to be holy, and he called us to be loving. And so just because you're not doing everything and you're not Superwoman doesn't make you less loving. Doesn't make you less holy. It makes you human, that I can't do everything. And if I'm able to tell you no, maybe I'm going to give you courage for you to grab your no and set your boundary. So with the church, yes, we are nurturers, we are caregivers, and we do the best that we can, but we're not God. We're not baby Jesuses to make everything okay. And we've got to practice self-care. We absolutely have to practice.
And see, I think that's the part that we're missing, is that we're not taught how to practice self-care. We're always taught how to take care of other people, especially women. Like, you're supposed to take care, because if you know how to take care of somebody else, then that's how you get a man, or that's how you get all these other things, so you could be a mother, because you know how to take care of stuff. But then ultimately, at the end of the day, my friend Vanessa practices all the time. She's like, secure your bag first, or secure you first, because if you don't secure you first, how can you tell other people?
Yeah.
But it's like, why do you think that is one thing? I was doing a poll on Facebook, and I was like, what are some things that you were told growing up that now you're like, that ain't gonna work for me now? And one of them was really like taking care of myself. Like, nobody ever said that I was supposed to take care of myself. And it's like, why are we not taught that you need to take care of yourself?
Because we were raised, most of us were raised in this survival mentality. And so within survival, you got to do what you got to do. And in church, you know, like we said before, the expectation is extreme. You have to be all the way here, or if you're not all the way here, then you are all the way there.
Yeah, you're such a horrible woman. Like, I'm serious. That's how you almost feel. You feel like I am such a horrible woman if I can't be like, because I remember for the longest time, like, Proverbs 31 woman was always implanted in me. Like, you know what, this is the type of person you need to be. This is the type of wife you need to be. And you need to achieve all these things in order to really say that you've perfected being a woman. And I'm like, we're never going to perfect this.
How can you?
I'm like, she was up sewing, had the cow out. Like, I'm like, I can't even barely answer my phone half the time.
So, I mean, it's one thing, I mean, because I've got upcoming girls now. My daughter is 19, and I have a 13, almost 14-year-old daughter. And, you know, we do teach our daughters that you got to be about your business. You've got to know how to cook. You got to know how to clean. You got to know how to take care of yourself. Your hygiene has to be a certain way. You need to be resourceful. You need to be a go-getter. Not that you won't get a husband if you don't achieve these things perfectly, but you need to be able to be self-sustaining. Even if the husband doesn't come, he will. But, you know, you got to be the best you that you can be. And eventually you're going to be raising children. So, you know, you got to recycle and reinvent and re-encourage other people, the next generation or your friends. But it's not to perfection. It's about identifying what's in you and you maximizing your capacity, not your neighbors, not being in competition with this image of what it means to be a church girl.
And I'm so glad she said competition, because I think all too often we don't realize that there's enough space for all of us.
Absolutely.
Like, we're all breathing in the same air right now. So there apparently is enough space for that. So why wouldn't there be enough space for you to be you and for me to be me and for it to be okay? But I was like, I get the feeling sometimes that we feel like I have to be better than so-and-so, because if so-and-so can work 5 jobs and still have time for her kids and go to school and do all of this stuff, then I should be able to do it too. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, like, transparent moment, I really did think that way. Like, if she can go to school, I can go to school, I can raise my kids, I can pick up my kids on time, I can be at the school, I can be a part of the PTA, I can be about a Girl Scout. And then I found myself burnt out. And at one point, I didn't want to do anything. So it's like, when you get to that point, that's really, I think, what started me on the journey of setting boundaries with people. Like, you know what, I'm not going to be able to keep doing this. So how does not setting boundaries affect our health? Not just our mental, but I'm talking about our physical. How does it?
So if we're not setting boundaries, we are walking around like a bundle of stress. And the stress is a silent killer. It's not just mental, emotional, but it does have a physical effect on you as well. And so many people that are walking around with cancers or high blood pressure or sugar diabetes, or most of this is because we're walking around with a lot of stress. We have this cortisol build up, and this cortisol begins to attack our bodies, and it excretes the sugar in our bloodstream, and now we're gaining all this weight, and we don't know. You know, we're dieting from here to there.
50 workouts today.
Yeah. I saw your workouts today. It's inspiring. It's inspiring. Yeah, stress is horrible for us. Stress is horrible. And I'm going to go back and say, like you said, sometimes when you look at other women, like, you are pressured to perform. I kind of look at it differently, though. Like, I look at other women, people that are in front of me, people on the side of me, people that I want to pull up to help them along. We are all encouragers. We are an inspiration one to another. Somebody else that's doing something gives me hope that I can do it too. Not that I have to do it, but there's space for me to grow in that area. Not that we have to be the same. I don't want to be the same.
I know, because we were all the same. That would be pretty boring.
Very boring.
It would be a boring time. And so I'm glad you said, I think people don't realize the physical aspect that comes with when you take on other people's business. It's not only an emotional thing, but and I think sometimes it attacks your spirituality.
Oh my God.
Because, see y'all, I pay attention. I think because sometimes you get that, Carla and I talked about why me, Lord? And it's because the Lord is like, well, you decided to take on Susan's and Jackie's and Kim's emotional stuff. I didn't tell you to take on their stuff. You decided to do that. So in spirituality, how do you think that we can, because I get women that I prayed about this and stuff. And I think people use that sometimes as I prayed about it. And so they don't really take care of themselves because they said they think they prayed about it. How can we get past and teach people that prayer without works is dead?
Yeah. So, first things, I think you should get your drive directly from God. You know, God's plan is God's plan for you. No one can tell me what God's plan is for me. And if I'm walking outside of that, then I'm going to be stressed. Then I'm going to be anxious. Then I'm going to be depressed. Then I'm going to be frustrated because I'm doing all this spinning my wheels and there's nothing coming back. There's no return on that. Or it's minimal return. And pretty much God says, okay, if you're doing this on your own, that's the most you're going to get from it. You got your reward already because you're seeking that affirmation from people, but we're not connected. You're off path with me. What was your second question? I'm sorry.
Wait, she got me off path right there. Lord, I need to be connected to you right now. No, but I was just thinking, I think people don't realize how much all of this stuff is connected. How your mental and your financial and your spiritual and your physical and your emotional are all connected, and it helps you. But you have to set boundaries in each of those areas with people. When you leave, I like your analogy. When you leave the gate open and you let people come in and out and do whatever they want, it's kind of it's okay for you to mess up my house all the time, anytime you feel like it, because I'm just going to go and clean it up, but I'm going to be frustrated while I'm doing it. And so I think a lot of times that people need to set boundaries in order to self-care and not be frustrated. See, I'm talking myself through it. Y'all don't even understand. I'm talking myself through it. So, I'm sorry. So
with time, we have to set boundaries with time. We have to set boundaries with our emotional, our inner peace. We got to set boundaries with our finances, relationships. It's different areas. Our spirituality, it has to be a boundary. There's sometimes, and we teach our children now, everybody shouldn't feel okay just cussing around you. There should be something about you and what you exude to make them feel like that's not welcome. I can't bring this around them because it's not welcome. But you have to state that not just with your mouth, but with your everyday activities.
And see, I think that's where we miss it, because we don't practice. We don't get consistent with our boundaries. You know what I'm saying? So if so-and-so could come in and then they're friends with so-and-so, so they feel welcome. Well, you let her do it, so why can't I do it? And people don't realize the different types of relationships you have with people and why boundaries are different with each person.
So
Y'all, she got this house drawn on this paper.
So, because I'm trying to figure.
She got this house drawn on this paper
because normally I would go real deep and do the inner course, outer course, holies of holies. That's the description I gave before. But I'm gonna break it down, just something in simpler terms. When you think of a house, and you have different boundary identifiers. So you have the gate with the door. So you have the yard that's protected, and then you have the door to the front of your home. So that protects what's inside of your home. And then you have doors to your bedroom, the bathroom. And so there are some people that you meet outside the gate. They don't even come in. They're not allowed on your grass. You don't know where they've been walking.
And you know what? You have to be uncomfortable with that those people aren't allowed in. And if they feel bad about it, they can walk away.
Because you have to know what you value. You have to know why is there a gate here? Why does it need to be protected? So I can't just why is there a gate here if I'm just letting everybody come in and walk? If my grass is green and I appreciate it being green, then if you've been walking on, I don't know where you've been. So I don't want that on my grass. So we're going to stand on the outside. So identification of values are important. So it's not that I'm being mean to you. I just value this. So I'm not willing to risk what's behind the gate. So there's different levels to the boundary. So somebody that you might let in to come sit on the front porch may not be the same person that you let in to come sit on your couch. And you have to identify the levels on where I'm comfortable. So, yeah, I might be more comfortable with where you've been walking, and you can come in and you can walk up my sidewalk and sit on my porch. But I don't know what's on your pants. So you can't come sit on my couch.
That's exactly why I don't have white furniture.
But then somebody that you might allow to sit on your couch may not be welcome in your kitchen. And they're definitely not welcome in your bedroom. Because the values are placed differently. So yeah, I might let you to this point. And many times we just let people come on in and they go right up to our bedroom and sit on the bed with their dirty clothes.
And we don't know how to kick them out. And we don't know how to.
We feel bad because we think we're going to offend them by saying, "Get off my bed."
All right,
don't go on my refrigerator.
We are talking levels to these boundaries. You guys, we're going to take a short break because I want Stacey to continue to tell us about the different levels and boundaries so that we can have a clear understanding of what we value and how we teach people to respect what we value. So we're going to take a short break. We'll be back momentarily. Talk to you in a minute. Hey hotties, you are tuned into Just One Hot Mom. I am your host, Nanika Ansari, and I am on with Stacey Hubbard, and we are talking boundaries. So before the break, Stacey was going through the different levels of boundaries and how what we value is how we set our boundaries, and how, you know, some people are not let all the way in. Because I think even at the seminar I was at, you even talked about, like, some people never get all the way in. You know, and there's some people never get to open your bedroom door and sit on your bed. And so I was like, I like the way that you explained it to us, that, you know, your values equal how people get in. And if people don't value or respect your values, then they stay on the outside of that boundary.
You have a choice. You have a choice of how far to let them in. And it's never meant for everybody to come to your bedroom. That's not open for everybody. So you have to have so the requirements, the expectations will have to be higher for the person that's welcome to that place of vulnerability with you.
And see, I think we're talking about a lot of self-work, because oftentimes identifying what you value, you don't really take that question in until somebody really asks you, like, well, what do you value? Because I can easily say, well, my family, my kids, my job, and all that stuff.
What about your family? What about your kids?
See, there are layers to this. Yes. Because I always tell people, like, I don't just welcome everybody to talk to my kids. There's only a certain, only certain people get to know the inner. Like, you might see them on Instagram or on social media, but there are certain layers that you don't get past to really get to know who they are, because they're going to develop their own boundaries. And if they want to let you in, then that's their choice. But I've always left it up to them to be able to make the choice about who you really want to invite in. Just because mommy allows somebody in doesn't mean that you have to allow them in. That's good. And so Stacey's going to give the scenario that she gave in class, because I was describing what you taught us there to somebody else, and they were like, oh, Nick, that's kind of mean. And I was like, it's not really mean. It's a matter of me respecting myself, self-respect. So can you give it to us?
Absolutely. So what I said was, say you're a college student and you've been studying all day. You have a big exam on the following day that you're preparing for, and you get to the point where your eyes are crossed and you can't even distinguish the words on the paper anymore. You're like, okay.
Coffee is not helping.
Coffee's not helping. Nothing's helping. It's like you've reached your capacity. And so you make a decision within yourself, okay, let me go ahead and shut everything down. So you close your books up, you go, you get your shower and you wind down. You go to lay down, you turn off the light, and here comes somebody. And you're like, okay, they'll go away. They become more aggressive at the knocking, and you're like, okay, who is it? And the person on the other door is a friend, an associate that says, we need to talk. We need to talk right now. I value our friendship, so this is why I'm coming to you. We need to lay some things out. We have to talk right now. How would you respond?
So my response was...
She was the only one, by the way, that had this.
Right, I was singled out. My response was, hey, that's nice. I'm gonna have to talk to you tomorrow. Like, let's schedule a time to talk tomorrow, because right now I'm tired. I got this exam in the morning. I can't talk to you right now. And I was like, that's it. Like, go away. See you later. And I was politely close my door and go back to bed because I'm exhausted. And so I think, like, I was telling the story to somebody else. And I was like, I think the girl next to me kind of scooted over. Like, she didn't want to be struck by lightning by my comment. But then I was like, in the room, I kept hearing the other answers. Was like, no, what if the person is suicidal? Or what if they're in deep depression? Or what if it's a serious conversation? And I was like, in the back of my mind and how I think, I was like, you know what? If God wanted me to open that door and really allow you in, he would have said, Nick, turn around. But more than likely, he's probably like, go to bed, because you're not going to be good to anybody if you can't, if you've reached your capacity and you can't function at any other level. And so we went around the whole room and I was like, oh my God, I'm the only one. I am the biggest jerk. And then when it came back and Stacey was explaining to us, like, it's okay to send people away, I was like, vindicated. Because I think that sometimes it's a learned behavior. And I was like, I don't mean to sound like mean to people, but it's something like I've learned to respect my own space, my own time. I've learned to tell people like, hey, I'm sorry that you feel that way about something. Maybe we could schedule another time. And I was telling my friend, Cody Pride, who's been on the show, was like, told me to start being intentional with people and to intentionally tell people like, hey, we're friends based on this capacity. So if you're coming at me with something that is out of our capacity of friendship, then I'm cool. Like, and it's okay to be that way. And so why do you think that people don't think it's okay to have those layers or those levels?
Because we're not taught. It's all or nothing. If you're a friend, then that means you're everything to me. We're taught by television, our friends, our peers, and in relationships. I think you had asked me before, even with our parents, our moms, like, why is it so difficult to set that boundary? Is because we were never given permission to. And so now we have to give ourselves permission. We have to love ourselves, because people are all outside of us. They just want from us. Nobody's going to say, hey, you care for you, because they're so focused on, let me care for me.
And we're all selfish. Like, just admit it, embrace it.
We can be.
Even if you're just a little bit selfish.
Because we all need each other. We all need each other to survive. It's just that one person, we can't expect that one person is going to do it all for us. And there will be people that will try to do it all for everybody. I'm one, you're one. That, sometimes we will not take care of ourselves, wanting the other person to be okay. And here we go. And then our feelings get hurt. And we get offended, because now those people that we've overextended ourselves to, when we are in need and say, hey, I need help, and they say no, we're like, what?
How dare you? How dare you not help me? Then I think in the back of your mind, you start going through a list of everything you've ever helped them with. Because you're like, well, I did all of this for you, and why won't you do it for me? But then I always tell people, like, that's your expectation. It's not that person's expectation.
So just like when you, that student that had to make a choice to, either I'm going to be there for my friend or I'm going to be there for me, because we had already said she had exceeded her capacity to think, to reason, to learn. She was done. So she closed up her book, and now somebody else is saying, but I need you to push just a little bit more. You've already identified that you don't have it to push. And so you're being unfair to yourself and being unfair to her as well, to try to push past that moment. Because how can you? Like, are you really going to give her your full undivided attention? Are you really going to reason with her? No, because you've tapped out.
And see, you have to realize when you've tapped out. I think of the scenario of like the mom who's at home with her kids, and you always got that friend who's like, "Can you babysit the kids real quick?" Or just can you babysit the kids again? And then they don't realize, or maybe they do realize, like, you are really asking me a lot. Like, I have 3 kids on my own, and you asking me to take on 3 more kids.
They're only looking from their perspective of, you say you're my friend, and then they guilt you with, I don't have anybody else to help me.
You better find somebody.
And
Tyrone.
You have to be okay to say, I'm sorry you're in that position, but I'm just not in the place to help you.
Because I think I find it in a lot of
But sometimes
groups.
you can't help. I'm not saying always.
No, it's
set
not
that
always.
boundary.
No,
It's just
right.
recognize where you are and be fair to yourself.
And see, and I think that's the thing that is more important. Be fair to yourself. Like, I don't always tell everybody no, but I know, like, there comes a point in time where I'm like, you know what? I'm exhausted. Like, I just can't take it anymore. And taking on one more thing might be the thing that causes me to tip over. And I'm no good to you, my kids, and I'm like, I have to serve my family first. That's my first ministry. So if I become no good to you, I'm no good to me, and I'm no good to serving them as well. And so I think that that's when you, like, I'm not just going around telling people like, nope, can't help you, nope, can't help you, nope, can't. But I
Stacey
think
said it's okay to say
like,
no.
right, I'm just gonna carry a sign around now that says Stacey said no. And so, but I think that it's a matter of self-respect. We have to get back to loving ourselves, respecting ourselves, and being nurturers to ourselves, because so often our nurturing is external from who we are, that we don't even realize that we still have the ability to receive nurturing. And so I'm like, I can still nurture
sometimes
me.
we ourselves expect other people to do the loving and to do the nurturing and to do the protection. And that's where the biggest problem comes in, and that's where our resentments come in and our relationship discord, because I'm expecting something from you that I'm not even willing to do myself. And we teach people how to treat us by how we treat ourselves. And so, you know, and I use my daughters a lot, but, you know, when I tell my daughters, if you accept certain behavior, if a little boy is coming and saying some ridiculous, crazy things to you, and you just smile and laugh it off, or you're telling him it's okay to be that way with you. But if you set the boundary and tell him this is not okay, this is not how you talk to me, you have to teach people how to respect what you respect. Because if I'm not showing myself respect, then they just believe
you can say whatever you want to say to me, treat me
that
however
it's
you want to
okay.
treat me. And that's the thing. And then you get upset with the person for how they're treating you, but you never set that expectation of, this is how I expect you to treat me, because this is how I'm going to treat me.
Or when they go out the house and they have something on too tight or too short or too revealing, I'm telling them, you are telling them who you are and how to respect you, because you are showing that this is how you want to be respected, because you're not valuing protection of these areas. So why should they?
Oh, that's a deep one. Pay attention, mamas. Pay attention. So what happens when you set a boundary with the person and they've crossed it? How do you reset that boundary?
So you have some choices in that matter. So you can restate, reiterate, reinforce. Like we said before, you can tell them, okay, now here's your exit, and you can walk out. So people that you love, you tend to give chance after chance after chance after chance, and sometimes you just give up, like, I'm tired of talking. So my children, they've been using our bathroom a lot, and it's driving me nuts.
Y'all leave your mama bathroom alone.
Please, I hope they're watching. But they leave their hair products. My daughter, she'll blow dry her hair and leave hair all in the sink, and I can't handle it. Like, this is not how I left my bathroom. Like, so if you come in here, if I allow you in, and I've given you the expectation of how to treat this area, and you just keep disregarding what I'm saying, how to treat my area, that we're paying mortgage for. Like we're paying for this. This is ours. Like you have to respect it. And so now that they're not allowed to come in anymore.
And you have to do the same thing with people. Like, hey, if I've already told you that I don't want to talk on the phone after 9 o'clock at night because I need to focus in on something else, and you calling me at 11 o'clock or, 12 o'clock at night, then unless it's an emergency.
You have to be the one. And because he gets on me about this, too, because I have to set a stronger boundary with that. But sometimes, I'm a therapist, so when clients call, instantly I'm like, okay, they're calling at this late hour. I need to respond to them and be there for them. I am their support, so they're reaching out for support, because if I don't, then here comes this old plaguing thing. But I've already previously given them, after this hour, if, you won't be able to reach me because I'm with my family, call the crisis hotline. And so they don't call the crisis hotline, and they because I answer the phone when they call, tells them that my boundaries are porous in this area. That they're negotiable. That what they feel, what they need is more important than what I feel and what I need for my own life.
And so you have to set a boundary with them that says, hey, really call the crisis hotline. Now I'm talking to her like, call the crisis hotline.
Seriously.
Because,
or just not answer. And I've had people that really get upset with me because they've called 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night and I didn't answer. And they're upset like you weren't there for me.
Robin's laughing, y'all.
I'm never going to be there for you at that time. That's not my role. I have limits.
And I think it's okay for you to set limits. Like, people don't realize that, like, when I really tell people, like, don't call me after 9 o'clock. Now, if, I have a friend that'll still text me and be like, can you call me? And I'll be like, Like, now I'm debating because I already know I set the expectation that after 9 o'clock, I really need to be focused on getting myself in the bed. Like, that, and it all extends to living a healthier lifestyle. When you start to set boundaries with people, it allows you to, explore what's really going on. Once I set boundaries with people, I think I was able to see, like, you know what, I need to eat better. Or I do have time to exercise. I have time to exercise because if I wasn't in your foolishness, then I could make time to do this. And that's like even with my kids. Like, my daughter, she suffers from anxiety. And so oftentimes she will call and she'll just talk and be talking her way through it. And I was like, you know what? We've given you coping mechanisms. How come you are not using those coping mechanisms? Absolutely. And you're calling me now, you want to dump all your stuff off on me. And I think sometimes we as mothers don't think it's okay to tell our kids, like, nope, you got to handle this on your own. But tell these moms why you need to teach these kids to cope.
Because you will they will never learn to work through conflict themselves. They will always see you as the dumping, as a person that's going to solve it. Because we as mothers, we don't want our children to go through anything, a crisis or any conflict. So we go and we fix and we make it better. But forcing them to deal with their own life and deal with it, we can give them the tools, we can teach them, we can be there as a support, we can listen, but we have to allow them to activate the coping skills.
And see, I think a lot of parents in society today have stopped teaching the coping
I don't know if we ever learn them. Some of us never learn the coping skills.
And so how do we learn them?
Call me.
Yeah, it's two therapists. But I'm just thinking, like, for people who are, okay, so let's go there then. For people who are afraid to seek therapy, because, like, it's such a stigma in our community that therapy, so if you go to therapy, something really wrong with you. But sometimes you need to go to therapy to learn to cope, to set boundaries, to help. So
I'm going to put it out there. I believe everybody should have a therapist. Everybody, even myself. We all need someone outside of ourselves that will help us reason and will help us to identify, like, what are our thought patterns, and maybe there's some blind areas or some just distorted thinking or some negative thinking. Maybe we're beating ourselves, we're too harsh on ourselves, or where's this shame coming from, and how's this shame affecting my relationships, myself, like how I'm taking care of myself. And so it benefits everyone just to have an outside person to dialogue with, to process things with, and maybe go deeper and really help us to deal with those blind areas or those troubling areas in our lives.
Now, what are we saying to the person like, well, that's what my girls are for? Because a lot of people would be like, I can just leave this information with my girls. And I'm like, you need.
So I've never had that experience. Having friends are extremely important. It's for your social well-being. Having friends is good. But having a therapist is able to challenge you. They're able to teach you. They're able to motivate you. They're able to listen to you without judgment. That whole unconditional positive regard. And we are obligated to provide confidentiality.
So therapist ain't telling you, but basically
we can,
right? You tell your homegirl, all her homegirls might know. But I was like, I feel like there's a shame attached to it because it's that superwoman syndrome. Like you should just be able to handle it. You should just be able to deal with it. And if you can't, and you have to go seek out some attention somewhere else, then that means that your value as a woman has been lowered.
I think it takes a very strong person to realize that they have to reach outside of themselves for help. I think it's a weakness if we don't.
And see, it's all about taking care of you as a whole person, not just going to the doctor to get your mammogram or to get your yearly or all that other stuff. But it's like you need to take care of your mind too, because one thing I know for sure is that if your mind isn't right, it can affect the whole total person. And you'll be thinking like, oh, it's just because I ate something bad. And no, it could be because there's triggered stress in you that's causing all of these behaviors. See, I pay attention to all the shows.
Or it's you have thoughts and then you have your emotions, which kind of they coincide, but sometimes they act differently. They are leading in different ways. Sometimes we have a mind to do the right thing. Our mind might tell us this is the way to go, and here comes a trigger, and we don't even know where it's coming from. I might feel fear, and I'm not sure where it's coming from, so now I'm resistant, and it doesn't make sense to me. Or I might feel angry and just have this overwhelming feeling of angry. And I'm like, where's that coming from? And I can't identify it. But something may have happened in your past that maybe I smelled this coffee and it triggered something in me that my mind can't connect to, but my emotions do.
And that's why you get a therapist. So speaking of getting a therapist, Stacey, can you drop your information for us in case people want to reach out to you, they have questions?
I want them to be able to reach a therapist.
Okay.
So there are many different agencies around. I can give mine. I work for primarily Ohio Guidestone, which is where I do my full-time work. That main number is 440-260-8300. That's the intake line. Again, that's 440-260-8300. Primarily, I do maternal depression there. So these are mothers with depression or anxiety or postpartum who are either expecting children or have small children. I also do private practice at my sister-in-law's agency, Solstice Counseling Agency. It's a shame that I don't have that number directly, but I will find the feed and put that number.
So we'll drop it in the comments.
Yeah.
Do you have a website?
I'll add that to the website as well.
So we're going to make sure that you guys get Stacey's information updated. And like she said, if you're just looking for a therapist, she gave you the information for Ohio Guidestone, and that's 440-260-8300. I'm so glad that you were able to come on today and talk to us about boundaries. No problem. I think all too often I keep speaking from the mother aspect because I'm a mom, we don't realize that we are allowing people into our space when they shouldn't be allowed into our space. And the guilt that comes with telling somebody, no, you're not allowed in this space is just too much for some people to bear. It can be overwhelming. And so I wanted you to come on today and explain to people, like, it's okay. You're not going to be condemned. You're human.
You might be condemned. But this is where you have to be okay with allowing someone else to have an emotion. So many times we feel so burdened for taking care of other people's emotions that we neglect our own. It's okay. Anger is natural.
Oh, you may be condemned by the person.
Yeah,
Oh,
if the
okay,
other
no.
person is
I'm talking
angry, if
about
the
Jesus.
other person, oh, I'm sorry.
No, but she's right. But I was just thinking, like, she's right. Like, I don't think in other people condemning me. I'm like, girl, that's just how you felt. But I think it took some time to get to a point, and
condemn you.
you know, he realizes that you're human. And so, yes, I was glad to have you come on today and to be like, it's okay to set those boundaries and to set expectations for people and to not allow everybody in because everybody doesn't deserve to be let in. So thank you so much, Heidi. Did you want to leave us with the final words? Go ahead.
I wanted to kind of give some bullets on setting boundaries. So the first is, 1, know your limits. Know how far, what's your capacity. Second is know your values. Third is listen to your own emotions. 4 is have self-respect. So don't do something that you for someone else that really condemns you or goes against your moral standing. Have respect for other people. Be assertive and consider the long term. So sometimes you have to determine how will this no really affect the relationship, and you got to weigh it out. And again, goes back to knowing your values. And the whole being assertive says I respect me and I respect you, and at the end I want us to both come out healthy from our interactions. I don't want me to not stand up for my rights, nor do I want you to walk away feeling depleted.
All right, Heidi. So Stacey gave us our final words for today. So you don't need any final words from me. Guess what, Heidi's? You've been tuned in and you've been elevated. Talk to you soon.
Bye.